This is the Digital Savage Experience Podcast, hosted by Roman Prokopchuk, bringing you all things digital marketing, tech, business, and motivation. What's stopping you from becoming relentless in all aspects of life? Are you ready to become a digital savage? Let's get into today's episode.
This episode is sponsored by Squarespace, domains, websites, online stores, and marketing tools. Some of the things you can do with Squarespace include turn your cool idea into a new website, showcase your work, blog or publish content, sell products and services of all kinds, promote your physical or online business, announce an upcoming event or special project, email campaigns, own your domain, and promote your business. Head over to squarespace.com/listen for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, use the offer code LISTEN to save 10% on your first purchase of a website or domain. Hey everyone, this is Roman Prokopchuk, and this is the Digital Savage Experience, episode 62. My interview with Asya Blue, owner and principal of Asya Blue Design. Hope you guys enjoy. Hey everyone, thank you for joining me. Today I have Asya Blue, owner and principal of Asya Blue Design, an award-winning multidisciplinary creative design firm working in both print and digital spaces. She also teaches graphic design at a number of New York colleges. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
And it was interesting, we kind of spoke earlier that we both have similar origins in terms of Eastern Europe, which is kind of a small world.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. We came here in the late 70s, so I was young, and grew up mainly here, but still that kind of immigrant resiliency and can-do attitude that a lot of people from there have.
Yeah, it's kind of a different mindset, I think, when you're coming from a situation that's not as, favorable as it is in the United States, both like politically and in terms of the economy. So.
Yep, and also, a lot of the parents came here for their kids, and very family-centric environments as well, where they do everything for their children, and high expectations, I think, on the children as well.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think that leads into my first question. So what is your origin story? What has been the road that has gotten you to the 2019 you?
Yes, so origin, like I said, we came here, I was young, from Russia, from what is now St. Petersburg. And, I grew up sort of with this mindset that, my parents came here for themselves, but also really for me to succeed, and in this supportive environment, but also high expectation environment. Like my parents never set foot in my school while I was in high school, as long as I did well. So, the minute there was something not right, which maybe happened once or twice, that's when they were on the phone. But otherwise they, let me do what I needed to do as long as I was focused, did well, surrounded myself with good friends, didn't get into trouble, then I had their support. So that sort of like carried over to me as a graphic designer. And I worked full-time for a while for various in-house creative departments. I always freelanced on the side. And at one point in my career, I went freelance full-time, and then mainly worked from home, and also started doing some teaching, which was good. I was a little younger then. But then kind of one thing led to another. I wound up going back to full-time work, which was good because I got to learn a lot. You learn things at different offices, different job environments, different industries. But I was jumping from job to job. And I realized that I kept jumping because I wasn't really truly happy in a full-time office environment. So just this past August, I finally took the leap and decided to go back to freelancing full time and teaching again. But this time I made it more official. I formed an LLC, and I feel like that put me in a different frame of mind, because now I'm representing a company. I have more at stake, and it's been great. Networking much more. I've been really busy with a lot of great clients and projects, and also my teaching picked up. Once people know that you're available more on a full-time basis with a freer schedule, they're happy. I feel like they're happy to give you opportunities. So my schedule is all over the place. I really like that. Every day is different, but it's on my own terms.
Yeah, I think it's whatever makes you happy, or what your kind of definition of success and happiness is.
Yeah.
And it's obviously different from person to person.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's been really good. And again, that's just really carried through from, my beginnings, kind of this, and how my parents ran. Both my parents had their own businesses eventually. So it's kind of this entrepreneurial spirit and doing things on your terms. We're not good at, following instructions from other people in a more restricted environment, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, some people also work well under different, situations. So if you're working for yourself, there's different pressures and that kind of thing. But when you're working for somebody else, it's a different kind of mindset as well.
It is. And people say, well, it's more stability, things like that. But from my experience, I don't think that's necessarily the case. You might think it's more stable, but, I've seen people who've worked at companies for 20 something years told it's your last day when there's layoffs. So, it's different things happen everywhere.
Yeah, that happens a lot now also with companies closing down different type of industries.
Yeah. But you have to be comfortable. Not everybody's comfortable being on their own and not having that regular income or paycheck coming at a certain time all the time.
Yeah, that's true. And the next question may reflect on, your previous work experience and maybe your current entrepreneurial, map. So what is your greatest flaw that has become your greatest asset?
Yeah, no, that was actually a really good question, because I was thinking about it, and it does definitely relate to kind of a trait that I have that didn't necessarily work for me in a in-house full-time office environment, but has worked for me being on my own. And that's kind of, whenever I worked at a company, at a department, people would always say, oh, you're so nice, which, was good. They liked it. But I was always the one, if somebody came to me to help with something like a favor or a last minute request, or they were late with something that they were supposed to get me earlier, and they would be like, we need this right away, I would always help out, because that's my nature. I would jump on it, I'd figure out, I'd help them. But a lot of my managers would say, that takes you away from the work you're supposed to do, or you're not supposed to, they'll get used to that, or they're taking advantage of you. But my thinking was always, well, we're all in this together. And maybe that was a little bit naive, because maybe people were taking advantage of me. But that's just, me. So in an office environment, I guess I was a little bit of a pushover that way. But working on my own, that same sort of willingness to help out, I feel like has worked in my favor. Because when a client comes to me and says, we have this last minute thing, or it's a fast turnaround, but it's last minute and we don't have the budget, and I say, sure, I'll help you, I feel like that solidifies our relationship, and that gives me a bigger and better project from the same client down the road, which has happened. So I think in a client-vendor type of relationship, that works in my favor. They don't see me as a pushover. They see me as somebody that can help them last minute or anything. I'm there for them. But in an office environment, it doesn't necessarily work for you, because it's a different type of structure.
Yeah, that's true. So that trait currently may help you win or get more business,
Definitely.
whereas in a corporate structure, there's a lot of politics and that kind of thing. So that's just a different environment, like you said.
Absolutely. The politics plays much more into it in an office environment than it does. And there's still politics with dealing with clients, but it's a very different type of relationship.
Yeah, that's very true. Mm-hmm. So how did you get into the industry that you're in?
So, I've been doing graphic design always since I went to college. But and when I was young, I always liked art. A lot of people like art. They don't think of it as a career. Always did creative things in grade school, junior high, high school. But when I was in high school, I started taking Saturday classes at FIT. And that sort of really opened up my world because it was the first time I experienced a college that was an art college. And I was like, oh, I can go to school and get a college degree for something to do something creative. And I took a graphic design class and I was just like, oh, this is creative, but it's still kind of conceptual and there's a business element to it. And it's a little bit orderly, so there's order, but there's creativity. It was like, for me, it was the perfect combination. And I was like, wow, this is a great career and it's still art in, my mind. So ironically, even though FIT was the school that kind of got me to that point, I didn't want to go there. I wanted to go to Parsons. I wanted to stay in New York too. And that's where I wound up going to school. I studied graphic design at Parsons. And people think like going to art school is easy, but it's not, because you're constantly working. You're constantly coming up with ideas, and then you have to create these things. And same thing right now in a professional world, you're always coming up with new ideas, and then you have to materialize them. So I went to Parsons, studied graphic design, and I couldn't wait to get out there and, do it professionally. And that's what I've been doing. The industry, of course, has changed. I, definitely got much more and more using computers and the tech end and the digital part of it. I started out as a print designer, which I still do, but do more and more digital design, websites, emails, banner ads, social, all of that stuff, video. The industry really has evolved, or the field of graphic design, which is exciting. It keeps changing. So that's what I've been doing ever since. It's great.
Yeah, I think like you said, that creative mindset, also not everybody has it or an eye for it. So, being in a creative space, like a school that focuses on creative and art, not everyone can do it or kind of adapt to it as well.
Yeah, definitely. And right now, because it's kind of a little bit more accessible, this field, it is offered, again, as an educator also, because I've been teaching, you can study it. If art school is not for you, you can study graphic design or other, fields within the creative sort of realm at other schools, at schools that are more general colleges. And I actually teach at schools like that have a graphic design program within a more general type of school. So art school is just one avenue if you really want that focus and be surrounded by that environment. But you can get good training at other and more general schools as well.
Yeah, that's good to know. And I think in general schools, people may not think they may want to go down that career path, but explore it and basically dive into it even more.
Yeah, that's the thing. You just never know. And you think you might go into one direction and then you start taking classes or just become aware of other things. You never know which path your career is going to take also. You just, it's hard to predict. True. Plus with things changing too. And I keep telling my students, I'm like, I don't know what the graphic design field is going to be like in 5 years. I couldn't have predicted where it would be right now. We didn't have the internet when I went to college. I could never predict web design as a field. We didn't have it. It wasn't a thing. So who knows what it's going to be, what new thing is going to be in 5 years.
Yeah, that's true. So what piece of advice would you give in terms of the professional sense, if you can give one thing?
So, it might be a little bit cliche, but, I really think you do have to love what you do. That's really my advice always. because we're in the business of selling our work in a way, our ideas. And my belief is that if you don't like what you're producing, what you're doing, it's harder to sell and it's harder to stand behind it. There are people who can sell anything, of course, but in your day-to-day, I think it's really good you have to enjoy it. That's what you do the most. You spend most of your time doing your work. So you have to enjoy it. There's ups and downs, but you have to enjoy it on the bigger scale. And I tell my students, again, the same thing, don't put up work. They'll put up work sometimes and say, oh, I really don't like it. I said, listen, you can't put it up if you don't like it, because if I was a client, I'm going to pick that one version that you're putting up that you don't like, and then you're stuck working on something that you don't like. So, it's really important to like what you do.
Yeah, that's true. I think you get to a certain point at a certain age and have to make that differentiation if you want to kind of chase money and that's all in good and be miserable, or be happy and be, content with whatever your income is.
Yeah. And the money will come. It'll come. I think you have to believe that.
Yeah, if you're good at your craft, and obviously you do the right things, like you said, in terms of networking and being out there and putting your name out there and, proving it through your work, then, eventually it will happen.
Yes.
So what motivates you to succeed?
For me, what drew me always to design, one of the aspects that drew me to graphic design is the fact that I create something and it goes out there. It goes out into the world, whether it's in a digital space like a website or an email, or packaging design that I did for a popcorn company. It's out there in the world and other people are seeing it, which is really great. It gets, gets to be seen. And then also when I create something and the client's response when they really like it, a little egotistical maybe, but just that creating something and somebody else liking it and it going out there for other people is just, that's what I really love about it. Of course, the flip side of that is that you create something and the client says, not what we were hoping for. That's always the bad thing. But we kind of have to, that's the nature of the business, and we put ourselves out there for the critique. But it's that positive part of it, which is, great motivation.
Yeah, and I think in terms of kind of design, you're putting out like a piece of art basically that you live through. Mm-hmm. So when it's out there and it's the work that you're happy with doing and the client's happy, you're like kind of immortalizing that work.
Yes. Yeah. And especially I have to say, some of my smaller clients, I get a little bit more of that satisfaction. I work with some people who are they're writers and they self-publish their books. I do a lot of book covers, and this is like their passion project, and they have a lot of money and they're self-publishing, and now you can get your book self-published on Amazon, and it's this one-on-one relationship, and I make their story sort of come to life on a book cover, and they love it. They love seeing it, and it's just really, it's great.
Yeah, especially like you said, the smaller kind of businesses or kind of the solopreneurs, when they don't have a big budget, when they get value out of something, I think not always, but majority of the time they'll appreciate it more and it'll go a longer way for them. That's
for sure. Yes. Yeah.
So thank you for coming on, and let people know where they can find you.
Sure. So people can see my work and get in touch with me through my website, and that's at asyablue.com, which is ASYABLUE.com, and also email, which is asya@asyablue.com, ASYA@ASYABLUE.com. I'm always up for new projects, love to meet new people, hear what they're doing. I love to hear people's stories. Everybody's involved in something different and interesting, see how I can help, and also teaching, training. I love to spread the design knowledge as well.
Well, it was a pleasure having you on. Thank you again.
Yes. Thank you so much. This was great.
Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? When I was trying to get this podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions. How do I record an episode? How do I get my show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other places people like to listen? How do I make money from my podcast? The answer to every one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors too, so you can get paid to podcast. Without Anchor, I don't think I would have ever started a podcast. It's so easy to use, and I record most of my episodes from my phone. So if you always wanted to start a podcast, make money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start to join me and the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast.
This podcast has been brought to you by Nova Zora Digital. Find out how Nova Zora Digital can help your company grow online. Learn more at novazoradigital.com. Until next time, all you digital savages.